Hello, welcome to the live stream of the Mayhem Lab. Today we are going to be playing with some RFID chips and hopefully kind of figure out a couple of things here. So I guess I really don't have much of an agenda, just an idea of kind of what I wanted to do. I figured since we're all kind of trapped indoors, I would give live streaming a try. Thought, we'll see how this goes. And also I've been working on building an RFID reader rig here just to kind of play with and see how things can work out. What I've got is a couple of chips that I've recently acquired. So these are T5577 chips, which are pretty common, and I've got a couple of other ones look very similar, but they're the E10, or excuse me, the EM410 chips. They look very, very similar, so I have to keep them in separate bags so I don't get them confused. But yeah, so what I wanted to kind of play with and to show is this the reader rig that I've been working on, trying to figure out exactly why it's not working correctly. It's getting much better read distance when I'm powering it directly off of battery versus running the battery pack and powering everything at the same time. Not quite sure 100% why yet. Still trying to figure that one out. But yeah, so basically what we've got is RFID HID reader on the front, purchased off of eBay, and then Arduino in the back. So using the Uno to do the heavy lifting. We have a relay which actually activates the door latch, and then a couple of power regulators down there to switch the power. Right now I've got it hooked up to a 19 volt cordless drill battery. It's the closest thing I could find. And the reader works off of 24 volts, but 19 to 20 volts seems to be working just fine to power this and split everything down. So, but turn it back around here. Well, it's not much to look at from the front perspective, but if we use the HID access card, why didn't that open? There we go. So standard HID access card works fine just for this door. And as far as the code goes, let's take a look at that real quick. Let me pull that up. All right, so what I've got is just some Arduino code that I pillaged off the internet. So I certainly didn't write this, modified it a little bit to interact with how I wanted all the pins set up and everything like that. But it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand. I can figure out where I got it from. I'm sure it was on GitHub somewhere. Put a link in the description when we're done. But scan the card. It actually prints out the bits, which is kind of nice. Tells me that it was a 26-bit card, shows me the facility code and the card ID, which is helpful, handy. So one thing that I was just actually starting to play with is I've got one of these rings. So it's an RFID ring that I wanted to kind of to experiment with. So this is a EM410 chip inside of here. I wanted to get this one programmed. I've done a couple of these in the past using actually the cheaper Chinese reader to reset them, but I wanted to see if I could get it done with the Proxmark as well. So let's take a look at, I've got the Proxmark set up. That was pretty much my morning, was getting the Proxmark up and running. It's much easier than it used to be, but it's still kind of a bear to get this software set up on a Windows machine. So if we do a low frequency search, if you're not familiar with the Proxmark, it's a fantastic tool. I highly recommend it. They're not overly expensive. I mean, they can be. You can get one of the latest and greatest ones for a couple $100. You can also get like what I did, sort of last year's model, if you will, for I think $150-ish. So pretty good savings. Still a very good product. Still like it a lot. The reason I ended up getting this one is because of the detachable antenna. So hopefully in a future video, I would like to start working at building some antennas and see if I can actually accomplish that. I don't think I'm not anticipating making any major breakthroughs. I'm sure that the designers of these antennas have done their homework, and this is a very optimal design. But I just kind of wanted to try it myself and see if I could learn a little something about antenna design. So I've got the RVD version. So we do a low frequency search right there, and it shows us that sure enough, we've got an EM410 tag. So I've already worked this out beforehand because, like I said, I've done a couple of these and I did some homework on it. So we basically do a low frequency, why that's not pasting, low frequency EM410 right. Well, before I do that, let me show you what I'm doing. So if you do LF, which is low frequency, then it gives you another menu. Figure out which kind of chip you want. We know we want the EM series of chips. And where are you? Doing the EM400 right. Here it is. We want to use the number 1 because we want to emulate the T55X7 chips, or in this case, T5577. So we're going to do low frequency EM410X right 1. I still have the ring, on the reader. Card type required. What did I mess up? Oops. 410, it wants a unique ID after. So let's try to put the unique ID there. What is that? 20050 Bravo 695. Tag written. Okay. Let's do a low frequency search and see if we pick it up. It still picks it up as a EM410X, so that didn't work. All right, so it's not quite as easy as Google thinks it is. So what I've done in the past, let me just show you here. I've got a couple of these rings so we can play with another one. But for whatever reason, this is the problem I was having, is getting it out of the EM410 mode and basically telling it that it's a T55 so I can make it act like a HID card. So using the cheap Chinese readers, I'm not scanning a tag to duplicate. All I'm doing is going to push the right button. And that seems to clear it out. So if I rescan that, there we go. Valid T5577 chip found. It still sees it as a EM410, but now sees it as a T5577 chip. I've been trying to figure out exactly what this little blue Chinese reader is doing for me. There we go. And now it sees it. So that actually worked. Now I should, I don't know if that's the right code. Oh yeah, I did. Okay. Couldn't remember if I picked the right code. So there we go. I basically cloned this HID card onto this ring. So they're the same now. Let's take a look at the HID card. So here's where I got that number, by the way. You'll notice that the HID ID number is different than the actual card number. This is appears to be a hexadecimal string. Not 100% sure what it represents, but there's that. All right, so we know that the blue Chinese reader still works, and it somehow is turning it into a HID card. And I would love to figure out how to do this with just the Proxmark. So let's set this one aside, since we know it is now programmed. And pick up a different one. So the reason I have all these rings is I have an RFID implant. Obviously, if you follow this channel, you'll know that I've got an implant. My friend Kevin now has an implant. Not many other people at my office wanted implants. They didn't want to go that far, but we ended up finding these rings on AliExpress relatively cheaply. They're like $10. So they're actually fairly nice. They're nice and smooth. It's like a epoxy coating on it, which is feels really durable, feels pretty solid. So I bought a whole bunch of these, not knowing if the sizing was going to be accurate. So I just kind of bought a range of them. So we had a couple left over, which means they end up in my wonderful collection of bins of stuff in the basement here. So let's do a search on this ring. Okay, so again, starting from scratch, it finds it as a EM410. Doesn't work. The HID reader doesn't see it. Oh, before I reprogram this, actually, I wanted to show you something else. This is kind of fun. So in a previous video, like I said, Kevin and I got some new implants, so we ended up working with Dangerous Things, got the Dangerous Things implants. And they send you this neat little card, which I kind of like. It's got an LED on it that will flash when it's introduced into a field for low frequency, and then an LED that will flash when it's introduced into a high frequency field. Since HID is low frequency, it's the 125 kilohertz. But what's fun is if you watch the flashing, it's kind of hard to see with the lighting, but you see it's kind of pulsating. And then it went away there for a second as it scans the card, which is kind of fun. If I take the EM410 chip, I don't know if you can make that out, but the flashing is actually changing much slower, much bigger, or much faster, I should say. So it's definitely interacting with the field. So I know it's still a low frequency chip. It's just a matter of this particular reader cannot decipher the code on this chip. So we need to change it so that way when we come in contact with the particular HID reader, the circuitry in here, the brains of it, if you will, can read what this ring wants to say. So let's take a look at, let's jump back over to the screen. So search again, make sure that it's working. There it is. Okay, so where I got this from, 1 second here. So from Dangerous Things forum is where I came across this. It's kind of interesting. So I live at a command line most of my life. That's my daily job, working in Linux. So I'm very comfortable at a command line. I actually didn't know the HID, or excuse me, not HID, the Proxmark had a GUI interface, which is kind of interesting. I was going to download this and just kind of play with it a little bit, but I do most everything from the command line anyway. So I don't know if there's a benefit to having the GUI other than being able to sort of see visually all the commands and everything laid out, which is kind of nice. So in this particular case, this individual is just saying they opened up the GUI, they did a search, found the tag ID for their proper card, and went in and used the low frequency clone and tag number, which I tried to do originally, but that didn't seem to work. But let's just try it one more time without the low frequency EM410 right. So low frequency HID clone magic number. So it says it did it. I usually like to write it 2 or 3 times just to make sure. And see, it didn't actually change. It's still the same ID as last time. So for whatever reason, I can't directly write to the EM410 chips through the Proxmark, which I find interesting. Obviously, I know I can. It works because I can do it with the different reader. I can, after I get it sort of reset, if you will, I can then write it with the Proxmark. So there seems to be some sort of block, and I don't know if it's password protected or if there's a bit out of place. Not 100% sure, which is what I am trying to figure out. So that's sort of one of my goals, is just to get a better understanding of these chips and how they work. So I don't know if this is interesting to anybody else, but I find it kind of interesting why one reader works and one reader won't, and you know why this isn't working. So the reason that we are here, that, and quite honestly, there's nothing much else to do. It's raining outside, and you know we can't leave the house, so might as well play with some RFID chips, right? Why not? Let's try the low frequency EM410X read. So it does see the number. Let's search, and that is the same. Okay, so fine. Okay, it sees that just fine. Don't see too much else. Let's try. I tried dumping the information before. So let's look this up. That's what we just did. That we tried to do as well. Didn't seem to work. Tag. Remove the EM410 tag and place the T557 card. So maybe this isn't the right way to do it. This is when we want to write the 410 code to a 55 card. That's not what we want to do. We want to EM410X to T55XX. What are the secrets of IT? Everyone thinks we know what we're doing. We just Google stuff. Yeah, I did all this as well, looking at the different bits and stuff. I don't know how interesting that actually is, if anyone actually wants to see that. Let's see here. Mistake was using the unique tag ID instead of the EM tag ID. Okay. I don't want to clone an EM tag. If anyone actually knows what I'm doing wrong, I would love to hear about it. Feel free to chime in and tell me how I have once again messed this up. Well, all right. Not finding any good success there. I wanted to look at some other chips as well. I don't know. Really got to put a clock down here. Forgot to do that. I've got some other EM chips, and I wanted to see if this is the rings or if it was all EM 400 chips or what the deal was here. So let's see, frequency search on one of these. Yep, so this is a EM410 ID found. Okay, so let's do low frequency EM. Actually, doesn't show anything, does it? It just says, so you know, that is different. So this particular EM410 chip doesn't show anything. If I scan the ring, it gives me the unique identifier and all kinds of other things. Looks like it's a Honeywell chip. But when I scan the implant, that's actually a EM410. It doesn't give me any of that. So they must be different somehow. Interesting. Let's try to clone this one. Doesn't give me code. Okay. Chips in there. Big T55. So this isn't a T557 chip. What if it doesn't really give me anything, which is disappointing. Wondered if it'll give me anything on this little guy. Pretty sure this is a T5577. So either I'm doing something drastically wrong or I don't understand how to use a Proxmark, which is also an extreme possibility. You know, knowing how to use the tools that you're working with are it's a very useful skill to have. Not find that at all. But I'll find. Okay, found one of those cards. Interesting. interesting. Doesn't find my valid HID card now. I have broken it. And that. Let's see if this ring works. Yep. Okay, it still finds that ring. Cool. Cool, super neato. But why aren't we finding these chips anymore? Let's try some different chips. Because everybody has bags of implantable chips in their basement. Oop. Let's see what this is. Valid HID card. Okay, so it thinks this is a HID tag. Well, that's progress. Doesn't work. I'm noticing that it's 37 bits instead of the standard 26. I think the other ones were, yeah, 26 bits is my valid card. Oops. Did that change? No. So I'm not able to change the ID now all of a sudden. That's interesting. Invalid or unsupported tag length. Why would that be? Let's see. Let's see if the forums have anything useful to sell us. Check to have this right. Something simple. Playback. Yeah. I know. This one does not currently know. I'm wondering if these are password protected. I did get them from China. No, we could try. Here's an idea. Low frequency search. I know. So there's my HID prox tag ID, ends in 310. Let's see what happens if we hit this with the Chinese reader writer, like we were doing with the ring. Let's see what happens to this guy. It didn't like that. Broke it. Oh, there we go. Just wasn't in the field. So it still ends in 310. Okay. Let's try to actually clone it with this. Okay. Nope, that didn't change the tag ID either. Still does not work to open the door. Pretty sure these tags said they were writable. The other possibility is they're not actually writable tags. I guess that's, you know, a risk. Trying to figure out how we can actually determine if they are writable or not. Oops. I did type if, didn't I? Low frequency is what I wanted. Oh, it's not what I want. All right. Well, so I guess that's interesting. I have heard that these particular blue handheld reader writers that you can get for a couple of dollars off of Amazon or somewhere like that supposedly do set a password when you clone something. When I did it to the ring, it still let me rewrite it to add the ID for the door to turn into a HID card. Oh, here we go. Bunch of default passwords. That's helpful. Bookmark that page. Unknown cards. Well, I was kind of hoping this was going to work and be useful, but it doesn't appear to be that easy. So I guess I'm definitely hanging on to the blue handheld reader writer for a while. I'd love to figure out how to do this with just a Proxmark. I mean, it must be possible. Can't imagine it's not. It's, all right, well, I guess there's definitely more research that needs to be done to figure out how to get this to work correctly. Unless somebody has a fantastic idea that can tell me what I'm doing wrong, that would always be helpful. But yeah, so this is what I'm currently working on to try to see if I can get these chips reprogrammed. Like in other videos, I've got the artificial hands created, so now I want to start doing some implants. Obviously, I know I can implant them, and we did it in a video. We implanted them, and then we're able to read it with the Proxmark, which was great. But making sure that they would work actually on a door is sort of my next step. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. Hopefully we'll do another video, try this again and see if we can actually get something to work correctly. If you got any comments, feel free to post them in the description below, and I'll get back to you soon. Thanks. Yeah.